What is your leadership philosophy, especially when it comes to managing teams and driving innovation?
Leadership philosophy is very simple. I need to hire and get people who are hungry. If you get people who are hungry, everything else falls in place. Right? So, hard work is an outcome of hunger. Okay. Intelligence is overrated. If you're hungry, you would be thinking about it 24/7. Innovation, problem solving, everything or hard work is an outcome of hunger. Right? Because skills can be taught, hunger cannot be taught.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Kofluence Unplugged, where we break down marketing trends, dissect brand strategies, and talk about what's shaping the industry today. I'm your host, Aritra, and joining me today we have Shantanu, who is the co founder at Kapiva. From leading marketing strategies at P&G across Asia to building Uniqlo's brand and D2C playbook, Shantanu has had a diverse career, and currently he's on a mission to make Ayurveda credible and accessible to the millennial audiences. So we would love to hear his insights. Please join me in welcoming Shantanu. Welcome, Shantanu. Thank you so much for being here with us. Uh, is this the first time that you're doing a podcast, or are you quite familiar with the format?
Yeah, so hi Ritra, great to join here the session with you. For the podcast, it's the first time. Yeah, to be
Okay.
true.
So I hope we can give you a great experience with your first time as well. Now, Shantanu, you've had quite an interesting experience across industries, across audience segments, across geographies. You've also successfully scaled businesses in a competitive market like India, where there's a lot of complexity and diversity within the audiences, right? So my first question to you is, how do you approach regional and hyperlocal marketing strategies, especially in the health and wellness space?
Sure. I think fundamental principles of marketing remain same, irrespective of India or any other country. While there are some complexities in terms of regional variations in India and even in terms of tier of towns, there are complexities, but fundamental principles remain same, right? I think broadly, I would say it's three factors which influence how we market it, and all these hyper localization and all these fall into one of these three factors, right? So first is, are your consumers different? Okay, so is the Tamil Nadu consumer different from, say, a North consumer? Uh, is the proposition which you are bringing on the table, does it have similar resonance or different resonance across regions or tier of towns? And then third is the media vehicles that you're using. Are those media vehicles different across regions? And I'll give you a couple of examples. So, for example, in terms of consumer differences, right? So, for example, have a blood sugar product, or we have a gym product. Now, the question is that consumer need similar across consumer segments? Or does it have a variation? And typically, the consumer needs are not very different across consumer segments. Although there may be nuances in terms of what would resonate with those consumers, right? And that's a question on the proposition which you are bringing on the table comes in. So, for example, there is a product which one of the top selling products which you have is Shilajit, right? Now, in North, people know Shilajit. In South, people do not know Shilajit, right? So, North, the communication, maybe we are the best Shilajit, but in South, if we say we are the best Shilajit, that may not have great resonance with the people, because people don't even know what Shilajit is, and hence your being the best Shilajit doesn't really matter.
Right.
Right. And same with the media vehicles that you choose. So media vehicles could be like, influencers is a media vehicle for us, right? Uh, the languages may vary, right? So typically Hindi and English work for most part of India, but South may have certain nuances.
Right.
Even in terms of, say, for example, not in Kapiva, but long back in China, I worked on a product which was meant to reduce your oily hair, right? Or manage your oily hair. Now, then we said, who are the people who would be suffering from that problem? And we said all the consumer profile listed down, and there were things like, okay, people who don't get proper sleep, they have oiliness. Who are the people who don't get proper sleep? Then it came out to be people who are gaming enthusiasts, right? So recent mom, right, who is not able to sleep. Now, if those are the consumers, then you would need certain different media vehicles, and by virtue of that, different influences to reach to them. And I think those are the principles in terms of consumer proposition and the media vehicles that you use, which define how much you need to localize or not. It's not localization for the sake of it, but if there are variations in one of these three, then we need to customize our solution based on that.
I think that's a great point on localization. Personally, I've seen that even in India, right, in all when whichever state you go to, they have their own perception of health, their traditional remedies that they follow,
Sure.
even their communication style varies,
Sure.
right? While you mentioned Shilajit is not very prevalent and not well known in the south,
Sure.
but it is a common thing. We've seen that in South India, Ayurveda is more well ingrained within the audiences.
That's true.
As
Yes.
compared to metro cities, wherein the audiences tend to sway more towards science-backed wellness trends.
Sure.
So it is not just about reaching people, but also speaking in their health language.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
We have seen that play out with influencer marketing as well,
Sure.
wherein we see that a lot of these regional influencers tend to have a stronger pull
Sure.
than national audiences when it comes to establishing social proof or trust and authenticity. Is that something you would agree with?
No, absolutely. So I think, uh, again, fundamentally, a consumer buys a product which is relevant to him or her,
Right.
and she believes that that product can solve her problem, her or his problem, right? Now, to build that relevance and the believability in the solution, right? Whatever is the relevant, and again, influencer is a vehicle to reach the consumer, right? So does that set of influencer make the consumer, make the proposition more relevant and make the proposition more believable, right? So for example, celebrity saying that this works great may not have a lot of believability. It has a different purpose altogether, right? But somebody whom I regularly follow as an influencer, I follow her because I believe in what she says, right? So that definitely works, right? And I'll give you another example. So again, I'm taking an example out of India, right? So long back, I worked on a shampoo proposition, and we thought we have created a very differentiated proposition where one of the big consumer needs was that my hair takes a long time to dry, right? And that creates a lot of problems for me. And we checked our shampoo or designed our shampoo in a way where if you wash with that shampoo and conditioner, your hair dries faster. Okay. Now, this is an example when I was working in Southeast Asia across multiple countries. So Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, right? Now, the core proposition had resonance across, but the way that proposition resonated with each of these countries varied. Okay, so for example, in Philippines, women wash their hair and typically take a tuk-tuk, which is a open minibus.
Right.
There are no windows, or windows are there which have no glasses, right? It's open minibus. Now you can imagine if your hair is wet, right, or semi-wet because they have a morning wash habit, and you go in that tuk-tuk, you can imagine the equivalent of an auto, right? So
Yeah.
what would happen to your hair by the time you reach
Frizz.
office? Yeah, so it becomes frizzy, right? And the time when the woman wanted to look her best is she's not looking, forget best, huh? I remember words like my hair looks like a bird's nest, and so on and so forth. So that is then an insight which resonated with people in Philippines.
Right.
The same proposition had a different consumer insight in Vietnam. Vietnam, typically women take bikes, okay, and if you've been to Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, so women take bike and they wear helmet. Now again, you can imagine if on wet hair you wear a helmet, what would happen, right? So it will leave a mark on your hair.
Right.
And again, same proposition in Thailand had a very different resonance, which is people do not wash their hair in the morning, but wash their hair in the evening. Okay. Now, if with wet hair you go and sleep on your pillow, what will happen to your hair when you wake up in the morning?
Yeah.
Right. So again, coming back to your point, so influencers, if they are regional or they know their consumer pulse very well, and I believe because they are in that industry, they know the consumer pulse very well, they can create content which really resonates with their consumer. And I think that's where localizing the insight matters a lot, and whichever way we can do it.
Right. So, as you mentioned, like influencer marketing is definitely gaining a lot of traction now,
Sure.
and it's a integral part of any digital marketing playbook now. But along with that, personalization is also key, and that is something that is kind of a non-negotiable,
Sure.
right? But in a country as diverse as India, how do you achieve personalization at scale?
I think again, it's the same three factors which are very important. Personalization, not for the sake of it, but if the consumers are different, if your proposition's resonance is different, and if the media vehicles are different, then you need to personalize to that extent.
Okay.
Okay. Now, for example, again, the proposition of Shilajit may have, or some people who bought Shilajit from us bought it for energy. Some people bought it for looking great, gym performance, and all that. Right. Now, these are two different consumer sets. Now, one is I need to communicate to them before purchase, but I also need to communicate to them post purchase. Right. And if I have to communicate to them post purchase, then I need to have different set of communication with each of them, because single communication won't work, because both of them have bought the product for a very different reason. And that's what we try to do through different journeys, which journeys in terms of all the CRM channels that we have at our disposal, be it email, WhatsApp, notifications, right? So all the post-purchase journeys, including even targeting on Meta and all that, they become personalized, not one-on-one to that extent, but at least on a segment basis, right? Now, especially for a healthcare brand, right? Because we say that at Kapiva, our purpose is to improve health objective of the consumer through Ayurveda. Now, if a person has come to us with a specific health objective, in order to, and that objective may be I've come for my indigestion, or I've come for my acne, or I've come for blood sugar, or whatever be the problem. If I have to solve that problem, I need to diagnose the problem very well. Okay. And now a doctor can diagnose the problem very well. But if you have to do it on scale, right, you will require the help of technology to do it at scale, right? And that's where different journeys come into play for each of the customers. Now, the journeys can be based on the problem, or the journey can be also based on where you purchase the product from, right? So, for example, if you buy the product from my D2C website, probably then I have a one-on-one conversation with you, right? Now, the conversation is not maybe human, or may not be a human, but through technology, I talk to you, right? But if you have purchased from a marketplace like Amazon, Flipkart, or if you have purchased from offline, now the way we try to trigger the conversation is there is a QR code where we put in like get your personalized free diet chart with the consumer for yourself to get better output or outcome of your health problem. And even in that, when the customer scans the QR code, then the connection with the brand starts, and then the journey triggers for that particular consumer. So I think we do at this stage to a great extent based on consumer cohorts or segments. I think now what AI is enabling, and I think we need to do a much better job, is have those one-on-one conversations. So even if you come to my app or website, based on what you have purchased before, I personalize what the offerings or tailor make the offerings for you, right? So I think we are in that journey. Hopefully we'll catch up soon, but I think AI lends fantastically well to one-on-one personalization.
How do you think vernacular content fits into the personalization a
Sure.
bit? Because see, in India, I believe 10 to 12% of the population is speaking fluently in English,
Mhm.
while tier 2, tier 3 cities, and even in rural India,
Sure.
vernacular languages like your Kannada, Hindi, Marathi, Bengali, so on and so forth,
Hmm.
they are part of your daily conversation.
Sure.
So, how do you think personalization can happen with vernacular content?
Sure. So I think most of the content that we do, we still do in Hindi.
Mhm.
Okay. A bit in English. Of late, we have seen some great success in vernacular, and that vernacular has been Telugu, Tamil,
Mhm.
Kannada.
Mhm.
We have done a bit of Punjabi, Marathi, right? So these are the languages. I think the challenge comes in being able to get sizable scale to invest in creating content.
Got it.
Right.
Mhm.
Because the main proposition may be very similar, but imagine for a smaller set of cohort, uh, I need the same level of effort, because to create a great influencer content, the effort that goes in Hindi or Kannada or Malayalam is same.
Mhm.
Right. But the potential scale that I can get in Hindi is very different from Kannada or Malayalam.
Got it.
Right. Now, I think that's the challenge which I believe a lot of brands are facing, that how do I either minimize my effort to create the content, because when we create the content, it shows results, right? So we get very good ROI. In fact, the ROI in all these languages are likely better than the ROI which we get in, say, Hindi or English, right? But I think the challenge that we need to overcome is how do I reduce my effort to create that content,
Got it.
right? And I think that's where we are looking at ecosystem in terms of partnerships. Some technology can dubbing create easier, faster content. So far, with limited success on these fronts, and that's what we are trying to do in terms of how do we create lot more regional content with lesser effort.
That's where I think Gen AI is also coming to the picture, right?
Yeah.
With
So
dubbing and
yeah.
vernacular.
So I think again, like what you're what you pointed out before, right? There are regional influencers who have a lot of believability, credibility, right? Now, when we try to dub content, it didn't have success. Maybe we'll, again, it's part of the iteration and journey that we'll have to do. I have seen great videos where Trump is dancing with Elon Musk and all those. AI can create that. I think we need to crack that code, right? So if that's the kind of content which AI can create, then hopefully there is a way to create that content. We are in that journey. We have had limited success in the past. I think audio is much more closer to the final human created content. Video is still a journey. Static visuals are almost on par or maybe even better. Okay. But AI definitely will have a role to play. And even as AI is becoming more sophisticated, we'll see it in a very different form in, say, 6 months or 12 months' time.
Got it. Got it. Now, coming to audiences,
Sure.
actually, I was going through your LinkedIn bio and it said something about how your mission now is to make Ayurveda and these health concepts more accessible to the youth. Right. I will give you a little bit insight on
Sure.
Gen Z and this population currently. They are the largest generation to exist in India at this time. They are also an audience segment that demands more sustainability and more experiential marketing. They're also quite conscious of things like ingredients that you put into your product, how you're sourcing your ingredients, health claims, and all of that. So, for a brand like Kapiva, how do you go about targeting Gen Z as an audience?
Sure. So, and again, going back, the principles of marketing remain same. Is your proposition for a consumer, me or so I'm not a Gen Z definitely, but for a consumer who is educated and all, so or irrespective whichever set of consumer is, the issue is the proposition relevant for me? Is the proposition I believe in? Right. Now, 30 years back when Salman Khan did a wheel ad, people still knew Salman Khan would not wash his clothes with wheel, right? But probably there was no alternative to it, right? So versus the open whatever detergent 30 years back which was available in the market, brand which Salman Khan is endorsing looked more credible. Right, and relevancy obviously is talking that it cleans your clothes and all that. People would buy seeing that TV. Now, I think what has changed is the bar on relevancy and credibility. So relevancy still remains same; it needs to be relevant to me, but on credibility is much more higher. Okay, now just because a celebrity is saying that this product will work great, not necessarily people will believe that it will work great. Okay, hence I think influencers do play a big role. The way the brand designs the proposition, the kind of ingredients that we use, the way we communicate, all that play a very big role. So, for example, especially in health, a consumer testimonial vouching for it that this product has worked on me is a great way to deliver your brand message. The kind of ingredients that you have, right? The way you communicate the message, and I think that's where, at least at Kapiva, at least at our scale, we may be one of the biggest spenders on R&D. Right. So there is a lot of research that goes into creating each of the products. And it's not just that in laboratory we spend to create the products. The kind of communication that we do is very technical in the sense that how this product works on your body. Okay. So this has A, B, C, D ingredients, and this ingredient does this in your body, this ingredient does this in your body, and hence it manages a physical problem, right? Now, that kind of a communication, because typically works a lot better on the educated consumer, Gen Z, millennial, whoever that has to be. Because again, you would imagine that for consumer like us, even if the doctor writes a medicine, we typically go on Google and search what is that medicine, right? So that's the level of sophistication that this audience has. And I think that's where the digitally native brands have an advantage in terms of how they communicate. Right. Now it needs to be backed by the right content and the product ingredients that we use behind it, right? And I think that can make it work. Gen Z, which you asked, has just happens to be that, but they need to believe that what you're communicating is very credible, and they will evaluate it themselves.
So brand purpose also, I think, plays a important part into
Absolutely.
it. I was actually going through a recent study. I think it was with Snap Inc. in collaboration with BCG. So it said how the Gen Z population in India is already totaled almost 377 million people, and they contribute more than 43% of all consumer spends. Gen Z as an audience segment. So definitely for brand marketers, they are a critical focus. But do you think more brands have started to take Gen Z audiences as a key buyer group, or is there still a gap?
No, so I think the brands are taking them very seriously. You talked about brand purpose, right? Now, fundamentally, I believe that people can see through if you're faking a purpose.
Got it.
Okay. And again, if your purpose is separate, and the way you create the purpose or way you create a CSR initiative is separate from the core of what your brand is doing, right? That's a problem, and people see through it. So, for example, if whatever you are running a cola brand and you also run a school, right? Now, then these two don't gel necessarily well, right? So the core of the brand purpose, the CSR initiative needs to be on the core of the brand, right? Now, again, for example, we at Kapiva, if I don't need to run a separate school just for the sake of showing people, oh, I am doing good for the society. We believe that we are doing great for the society because it's any individual's life. If he or she is able to overcome a pain in life, there cannot be a better, bigger purpose, right? And if I have additional money, I would rather invest in research to create a product which elevates your life's pain, right? Then nothing like it, right? I don't need to donate certain amount of money for a purpose so that I can show on my website.
Right.
And I think Gen Z can see through it,
Right.
right? You can't fake it, right? And I think that's what I would say, that the purpose that you are propagating needs to be in the core and DNA of your brand.
Right.
Right. And maybe an alcohol company needs to run a school because maybe the core product doesn't do justice to it. But for most brands, most products, if it's in their DNA, then they don't need to have a separate purpose from fundamentally what their core brand is.
So, Shantanu, with in the health and wellness space, what we've seen, there's a lot of misinformation out there, right? Especially now with so much scrutiny on health related advertising, how do you proactively identify and mitigate regulatory risks when it comes to marketing and especially influencer marketing?
Sure. So I think we have a very stringent internal process where before any content goes on air, the kind of claims that we are making, the themes that we are pursuing, needs to be validated through vetted by R&D and our internal legal and regulatory department. So, and again, health is quite a sensitive area, especially not just from a government standpoint, but even from Meta, Google's own internal guidelines standpoint. So, I think we do it in multiple phases. So, one phase is that whenever we create a product, R&D gives us that what is true on those products. Typically, those claims are backed through clinical trial or research, right? Now, broadly on those 4 5 claims for the product, which are then vetted by legal, that's what the marketing team uses to create content. Right, that is what goes into briefing the content creators like influencers as well, right? That you need to broadly elaborate on these 2 or 3 themes, which you can express in a way. The insights can be yours, okay, but the claims cannot be anything beyond these, right? And I think while there is a challenge that in terms of total number of content that gets created, like in my past life in PNG and all, we would create 2 or 3 contents in a year. Now we create 300 content in a month. Okay. Now, having a sophisticated process to filter at any stage that nothing goes to air without going through the internal scrutiny process. I think that's where phase one is, when we get the product and proposition and it's handed over to marketing. Second is when anything big goes on air, the claims, the scripts need to be validated with our technical department, which is the legal and R&D both. So I think that's the filtration process that we have to overcome this.
I think influencers are a great resource when it comes to educating audiences on, complex topics like health and healthcare in general. So that is where they can play a very integral role in bridging that gap.
Yes.
But again, as you said, any fake health related claims could definitely mislead the audiences, especially when in India proprietary drugs have little efficacy rules. So what would be your advice to any influencer who's doing health related collaborations? How can they go about promoting Ayurvedic products with utmost transparency?
Sure. So again, whatever claims the brand is asking you to make, please ask for validation of those claims. A lot of times those may be too technical for you to understand, but at least ask the brand that do they have some level of supporting with which the claims that they are making, right? And in fact, many influencers do ask us as well, right? So you are making a claim, or you are asking us to make a claim on the behalf of the brand. Do you have supporting documents, right? And I think that's a watch out, which is great for any brand. It may be look like a short-term gain both for the brand and the content creator, that I can make a fancy claim which gives me a short-term sale, but it's always better to be on the safer side. So I would recommend that the influencers need to ask the brand that do you have supporting documents to verify the claims that you are asking me to make.
So I think due diligence is definitely required on an
Absolutely.
influencer's part as well,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they are answerable to their audiences,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it has to be a collaborative
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
approach.
yeah. Because they would all, again, they have built their credibility over a period of time,
Right, right, right.
right? And within their audiences. So, and typically, I believe most influencers would not just support a product for short term monetary gain if the product doesn't deliver on the promise, because
Right.
ultimately, and that happens a lot of times, that when the influencer posts something next time, the audience start commenting, last time you said this but I
Right.
tried it, it didn't work,
Right,
right? So
right.
they lose their credibility. So
Mhm.
ultimately, credibility is their main
Social
thing, which,
currency.
yeah, social currency which they are
Yeah.
monetizing,
Right,
right? So
right.
it's better to be on the safer side, both from regulatory standpoint as well as maintaining their credibility among their audience.
Great. Uh, very curious, Shantanu. You have had such a vast experience across all of these different industries. What is your leadership philosophy, especially when it comes to managing teams and driving innovation?
Sure. So I think I have a very single-minded focus. So innovation may be one nuance of it, but leadership philosophy is very simple. I need to hire and get people who are hungry.
Hmm.
Right. That's all.
Mhm.
Right. If you get people who are hungry, everything else falls in place.
Mm.
Right. So hard work is an outcome of hunger.
Mhm.
Okay. Intelligence is overrated. If you're hungry, you would be thinking about it 24/7.
Mhm.
Right. Your job then is not 8 hour or a 9 hour job. People stop complaining about work-life balance and all. And I'm not saying that, oh, you need to work these many hours. But because they are hungry, they are thinking about the job at hand all the time, 24/7. Even if they are sleeping, they are thinking about a problem which I can solve. If they are in a store buying something, maybe it's their personal shopping, they're thinking, oh, if this was my product, how would the consumer shop for it,
Mm.
right? And that cannot be matched by absolute number of hours that you force somebody to spend,
Right, right,
right?
right.
So if you solve for hunger, and ideally it's solved for at the stage of recruitment, life is sorted. So
Mhm.
innovation, problem solving, everything or hard work is an outcome of hunger, right? Because skills can be taught, hunger cannot be taught.
Right, right. I
Yeah.
think that's a very bold statement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Shantanu, for coming on here on our today's episode and
Yeah.
sharing all your valuable insights with us. I'm sure our community will definitely appreciate all the little nuggets of information you shared with
Yeah.
us.
Thank you,
Thank you
Aritra.
so much. Hopefully, you had a good time as well.
Yeah. I enjoyed talking to you, Aritra. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we've come to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this episode, definitely do subscribe to Kofluence Unplugged. Please drop a like and comment. It really helps us reach more people like you. I'll see you in the next time. Until then, stay inspired, stay happy, and keep Kofluencing. Bye.